Okay, so today we are going to factor trinomials when A, the A value, the leading coefficient, is not equal to 1. All right, and the best thing about it is that your technique with drawing the X pretty much stays the same with a few modifications, but it really makes factoring these trinomials a lot simpler. So remember, we're talking about trinomials in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. Now, when we draw our x today, what's going to go up in the top of the x is a times c. Whatever a times c is equal to will go up in the top of this x. What goes down here in the bottom of the x is this b value. And then what we're going to do is we're going to find two numbers that multiply to this product and that add to this value of b. And then after that, I'm going to show you a technique of how to finish, group, and list the factors as two binomials. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to factor 6x squared plus x minus 2. All right, and our first step is to draw this x. Now in the top of this x, we're doing a times c. And 6 times negative 2 is negative 12. And then our value of b, which is what's in front of the x, in this case, there's not a number there, so we know there's a 1 there. We got a 1. All right, so a times c goes in the top. Our b value goes in the bottom. Now, we're looking for a number times a number that equals negative 12, and a number plus a number that equals 1. So, if you think about that, think of the factors of 12. You got 1 and 12, you got 2 and 6, 3 and 4, and that's it. So when you're looking at these factors, the only two factors that you can add together to get a 1 would be a 3 and a 4, because you're going to have to work with positive, negative. Okay? So you can use the same technique as you did yesterday. If the middle term is positive, then the larger factor needs to be positive. So if we take the 4 and put it here, and the 3 over here, make it negative 3. So 4 times negative 3 equals negative 12. 4 plus negative 3 equals positive 1. Everybody okay with that? All right, our next step is right here. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. In these 4 slots, our first term in the original trinomial goes in this first slot. So we go 6x squared right here. Our last term in the original trinomial goes right here. So we go with a negative 2. And actually, you can put the negative in between the two blanks. Now, what's in this position and this position go into these two positions. Since our variable in the trinomial is x, we take this positive 4, we go positive 4x, and then we go, since this term is negative 3, we go minus 3x. Simple enough. That's just moving numbers, right? This goes to here. This goes here, here, and here. Now we do a technique that's called factor by grouping. So we put parentheses here and here. And then here and here. Now we're going to factor each of these binomials like we factored on Tuesday. So we're going to factor 6x squared plus 4x. We're going to take out the GCF. The GCF of 6x squared and 4x is 2x. And then we divide the 2x into the 6x squared, and we get 3x. And we divide the 2x into the 4x, and we get positive 2. Now, if you pulled the GCF out of this first binomial, if you pulled out the greatest common factor, then this 3x plus 2 is going to show up again when you factor this second binomial. So now we go minus. And what's in a 3x? What's the greatest common factor for 3x minus and a minus 2? There's nothing that goes into them evenly, is there? All right. So be careful, because right here you can write the 1 or you don't have to write the 1. You can just go left parentheses 3x minus 2. I'm sorry, 3x plus 2. Because if this was a negative 1 in here, all right, the negative 1 times 3x would be negative 3x, and the negative 1 times the positive 2 would be negative 2. So now, here's what your factors are. This 2x and whatever's in this position are your first binomial factors. And then this and this are your second binomial factors. And now you've factored 6x squared plus x minus 2. And everything holds true as far as if you multiply back through using the distributive property twice to double check your factors, you're going to get 6x squared plus x minus 2. All right, now, let's do another one. And as you do this technique a couple of times, you're going to start getting faster and faster and faster at it. So here we go. We got 5x squared plus 11x plus 2. So we're going to draw our x. In the top position goes our a times c, and 5 times 2 is 10. In our bottom position goes our b, which is 11. We're looking for something times something that equals 10, and a number plus a number that equals 11. Our factors of 10 are 1 and 10 and 2 and 5. The only two factors that will add up to 11 are the 1 and the 10. So we go 1 and 10. since everything is positive in the trinomial, then everything is going to be positive when we factor. So we set up our next step. Our leading term, 5x squared, goes here. Our last term goes here. Our first factor, this positive 1. Now, we don't write the 1 in front of the x, so we just go plus x. And then the positive 10 goes here with an x after it. So now we break this thing into two pieces. And we factor each. So 5x squared and x, the greatest common factor in 5x squared and x is just going to be x. And then we divide the x back into each term. So x into 5x squared goes 5x. And x into x goes one time. The GCF of 10x and 2 is just going to be 2. And then we divide the 2 into the 10x, we get 5x. The 2 into 2 goes one time. And now we've got our two binomial factors. So we take the x plus 2 is one factor. And the second factor is 5x plus 1. Any questions on where these numbers are coming from or where they go? It's breaking down this factoring of a trinomial to the simplest possible way that it can be done. Let's look at 3x squared plus 4x minus 15. All right, we're going to follow all the same steps. We're going to draw our x. Our a times our c goes in the top. So 3 times negative 15 is a negative 45. Our b value goes in the bottom. It's a positive 4. We're looking for a number times a number that equals negative 45. And a number plus a number that equals 4. So we list the factors of 45, which are 1 and 45, 3 and 15, 4, 5 goes 9 times. All right, and you can see here now that with a 5 and a 9, the difference is 4. And 5 times 9 is 45. So those are the two numbers we're going to use, the two factors we're going to use. Now, our middle term is positive. So will the 5 be positive or the 9?
The 9.
The 9 will be positive. So we go, the positive 9 is here, and the 5 has to be negative. 9 times negative 5 is negative 45. 9 plus negative 5 is positive 4. All right, we kind of draw our next 4 positions. Our first term goes in this first slot, so that's our 3x squared. This factor that we used, the order of these factors won't matter. It's going to work out. So we go positive 9 and x. Then we go -5 with an x, so -5x. And then right here goes our last term, which is the -15. All right, we take those 4 terms, we split them into 2 binomials. And then we factor those binomials using the greatest common factor. So the greatest common factor in 3x squared and 9x, 3x. We divide the GCF into each term. So 3x into 3x squared goes x times. And 3x into 9x goes 3 times. Greatest common factor in 5x and 15. That's a 5. And then 5 into 5 into 5x goes x times. And then 5 into -15, that's going to, or this -5 into -15, that's going to go positive 3 times. And now we've got our 2 binomial factors. So 3x minus 5 and x plus 3. All right, and a couple of things that you want to kind of pay attention to as you're working through here. Is if this is plus, then this is plus, okay? If this is minus, this is minus. Once you have determined your first factor, if you pulled out the GCF, make sure you pull out the GCF, then this factor, this first binomial factor, shows up twice, okay? We had x plus 3 in the beginning. We have x plus 3 at the end. All right, that's kind of real important. So just make sure that you're pulling out the GCF, okay? Make sure you're pulling out the GCF. All right, does anybody need to see one more? I got a couple of practice problems for you to do today. And like I said, we're going to do a study guide tomorrow and a quiz on Monday. So we're going to call this page 520. Problems 8 through 13. And again, that page has been uploaded to Focus as a PDF. And I will also put it up here on the wall in just 1 second.